When the game cannot be won, change the game. So says Jorg, the King of Thorns. Hello and welcome to the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. Yes, please. Now, my name is Ken Boyter, and today we're going to be looking at Book 2 of the Broken Empire Trilogy by Mark Lawrence, and it's called King of Thorns. Now, we did do a review of Book 1, so check that out so you can see my thoughts on that. Now, I was intrigued with Book 2, and I was interested to know what happened next, especially with the characters. Did they keep me intrigued? Let's find out. The Broken Empire Trilogy by Mark Lawrence. What is that all about? As I say, we have done Book 1, which is The Prince of Thorns, and we're now looking at Book 2, which is The King of Thorns. Now, the setting for this, again, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but it's basically, as you would imagine, Book 2, a continuation of Book 1. Now, I guess there's a slight spoiler, but it is on the back of the book, so it's not really a massive spoiler. But as the title suggests, Jorg, who is our main character, he has now become a king. He's the King of Thorns. And he basically has taken over a little kingdom. It's not massive. There are several kingdoms that all border each other. And he has managed to climb his way up through doing some horrible, horrible things. Murder, rape, pillaging, just a total disregard of his fellow humans. But that is the way that he's decided at a very early age. I mean, he was a prince, but he rebelled at about 12 years old, I think it is. And he decided the only way to win the game, i.e. become emperor, is to play nasty, is to not play by the rules, and in fact, change the rules to suit him. And so far, it has been very successful for him. He has been a little bit lucky, but on the whole, he's thought up devious plans, sometimes on the hoof, sometimes thought out in advance, but generally, his plans have come off. But there have been some casualties along the way. It's not been plain sailing for him, but he did manage to become a king. Now, this is a continuation of this. He wants more. He's not content with this. He wants to rule all of the empire, and it's a broken empire. It was once a mighty empire. Intriguingly enough, we don't know how it was broken up, and that's one of the questions that I'm hoping Mark Lawrence, the author, will address, because he doesn't really go into it in this book. But, as I say, it's the continuation of Jorg's journey. So that's where we are with Book 2. The themes, now there's quite a few themes. The main one for me is guilt. And it does differ, the themes from Book 1, as you would expect. And again, check out the episode. I know I keep going on about it, but check out Book 1 episode, because you'll learn about the themes there. And they do kind of carry on, but they change. They're not the opposites of the themes, but they do tag in, if you see what I mean. So there's guilt. This time, we see Jorg. He is slightly older. I think it's about 2 or 3 years later, and he's maturing as a person, as you would do. And he is starting to have these guilty feelings about all the horrific things that he's done. And this comes as a surprise to him, because he thought that he wouldn't have that. He thought he could just go around doing exactly what he wants and not suffer any consequences. But he's starting to find that it doesn't quite work like that. That his soul is starting, he knows that he's corrupt. He knows that he's gone through, he knows he's going to hell. And that is an interesting concept now, because that guilt is starting to come in. So he's having to deal with that. He's having to struggle with that. And consequently, that does reflect in his actions, or, the way he's actually behaving towards people. And obviously that's a good thing, because, for example, whereas he may have actually killed someone just outright without thinking about it, just because of the way they looked at him, now he's kind of showing a little bit more mercy. And there's always this constant internal dialogue when you're reading it. You do hear his thoughts. It is from his point of view. And that, it really is intriguing to now see him struggling with his actual actions and all the horrific things that he did do in Book 1. There's a little bit of a spoiler. But again, the back of the book does say, that he's not a very pleasant person. And so that to me is one of the main themes. And then obviously on the kind of flip side of that, if you have guilt, then there's got to be, why is he guilty? And there's got to be victims along the way. And therefore you start seeing some of the victims and their responses. And I guess if you're a victim, you go through all sorts of emotions, and one of them is forgiveness. About, can you actually forgive somebody that's done so much harm to you and maybe your family? And I would imagine some people don't, but I would imagine some people do. They somehow find it in their hearts to forgive that person. And there's one character in particular I'm thinking of, I don't really want to spoil it, but they actually start along that journey, and it's really, Mark Lawrence does a great job of exploring these feelings of guilt and forgiveness. So there's the forgiveness of the victim, but there's also forgiveness of himself, because then if you start feeling guilty and you start feeling about forgiveness, you also start feeling about redemption, because obviously if your soul has been corrupt, the big question is, can you then overcome the corruption and be sin-free again? Do you actually get to a point where you can, I guess, like Christianity, you can be reborn and your sins are forgiven? Does that ever happen? So along the way, you've got to start forgiving yourself. And that starts creeping in just ever so slightly into Jorg's feelings and thoughts. There is another couple of themes. One is revenge. Obviously, if you've had victims, then another path that you can take is revenge. So, and also it's the cycle of revenge. If someone has been badly harmed, do they continue that? And when they start down the path of revenge, where does it end? Because if somebody does revenge, then that person that has had the revenge kind of done on them, do they then start taking revenge back again? And so that it's just a never-ending cycle, and that you start poisoning your children with the revenge, as in, they did this to your grandfather, you must now take on the challenge and hate those people as well. So again, quite a weighty theme to start exploring, but very well done, very thought out. The other one is and then underpinning all of this is what it is to be a human. Now that is an underpinning theme in the first book. And again, you start thinking about, if cruelty was done to a human, again, the cycle of behaviour, does that automatically equal that then you are going to be cruel to other people? Or can you rise above that and start to go, well, okay, I had all this bad stuff and horrible stuff done to me as a child. Does that mean I have to do it to other people? And again, this is where Jorg starts kind of looking into those areas of his lives. So there's some really heavyweight, meaty themes along the way. And the style of writing does reflect that, because in book one, the first 30 or 40 pages, it is a bit flighty, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. You don't actually, well, I personally didn't like Jorg. He was a real cocky, arrogant little, I didn't like him. And so that was, can I continue to read this about this character? But because his character arc is developing, he is maturing, he's reflecting on this, he then starts to become not likable, but the writing reflects this. There's a certain maturity, it's just really solid, economic, intriguing writing. And the writing really settles down in book one after about 34 pages, and it continues. So he's basically, starting where he left off, and that is a good thing, because it's like, this is really comfortable. I know his style of writing, I know his voice, and it's very, very enjoyable. There is, as I say, the quality of the writing as well is excellent. You're in safe hands. When you start reading a book and, if you just instantly click with it, then you don't have to worry about the quality of the writing, and then the story and the characters can come through. The tone of it is still dark. It is still gritty. There are still some things that you go, whoa, I can't unread that. But that's part of it, because if you're going on the journey with Jorg, and he is exploring sin and he is exploring corruption and doing whatever it takes to have this power, then you're coming along for the ride. And so obviously if you're a moral person, you're going to kind of try to resist that and go against that. So I think it's very skillful of Mark Lawrence to actually be able to, because he's starting to address the morality of it, and you start to see glimmer of hope. I personally want to see redemption. Whether or not he does in book 3, that's a different matter. There is the characters, as I say, all of them are very well rounded. You get to know them obviously a lot better, and you again, I am intrigued. I definitely want to know what happens in book 3. Overall, yeah, a very good, there is always that tricky third album syndrome, You spend years and years developing, a book, and then you do book 1, and then book 2 is like, oh, hang on, how do we do this? How do we carry this on? He's done it brilliantly. Mark Lawrence has really, kept the same quality levels, kept the characters intriguing, new things come into it. In fact, the fantasy element ups now. The magic, there was really only a low-level kind of magic in book 1. It was kind of almost like, an historical drama. But this is actually... the magic really starts to come to the front, and it's really kind of in your face now, and that's really nice. And he puts some lovely twists on traditional fantasy elements. Again, I don't want to spoil it because I want you to enjoy it as hopefully you'll be reading it. And I just was like, oh yeah, this is really starting to brew up now into a great third final book, and I'm really, really excited to see that. The other thing I will say is that I really hope, I've not read the third book yet, I really hope there's that satisfying ending. I really don't want it to be a disappointing ending. I'm sure it won't be, but you never know. Because I really am taking these to heart. I really do rate these now. I think it's certainly books I will read again in the future. So there we go. That was King of Thorns, book 2 of the Broken Empire trilogy. Thank you so much once again for watching another Bottled Imp review. This time it was book 2 of the Broken Empire trilogy by Mark Lawrence, and it's called King of Thorns. Hope you enjoyed that. Please leave some comments if you have read it, or if you've read the whole trilogy. Obviously no spoilers, but leave some comments. Let me know what you thought about it, because I'm eager to find other people that have enjoyed them as much as I have. So look out for book 3. I'm eager to read it. I should be tucking into that soon. So check out some more reviews for us. Until next time, take care, fellow imps.